Can these Tozo $40 over-the-ear headphones give the $180 Sennheiser HD200s a run for their money? Of course not, but the gap isn't quite as far as you think it might be. Stick around.
Let's go into the Bungalow world.
When Tozo reached out to me to collaborate, I told them I actually used their products already and was a fan, but I've only used their earbuds and for casual use. When they offered me the HT2, I initially said, no thanks, I got my Sennheiser. But I looked at the product listing and something caught my eye. High-res audio certified. All right, you got me. Send me over a pair, free of charge, full disclaimer, and I'll check them out. Now, there are several ways I'm going to test these things and several ways I will not. I'm going to use the headphones for FLAC lossless audio. I won't be making any calls with them. I won't be listening to podcasts or using a digital assistant. I will also not be using them for gaming. Sorry, my loyal Steam Deck followers, but if that's something you want, please leave a comment below and, like, subscribe, hit the bell. And I will certainly test them as gaming headphones, but that's outside of this video. As with most electronics these days, there's a companion app available for these. Since sometimes functionality is hard-locked behind the apps, I'll be testing music playback with and without the app, since not everyone will want to use the app, and we need to know what these things sound like out of the box, unaugmented. There is also ANC and something that they call adaptive hybrid ANC. We'll see if that's worth the hype. Finally, it has a 1/8" jack for wired connectivity, 3.5mm for you non-US citizens, and it's always fun to see how well it works with and without the headphones being powered. While it seems unfair to compare these $40 headphones with $180 Sennheiser, it has to be done because this set is going to be competing for my head time, and what you reach for will make a difference. Plus, I used it in my hook, so I have to deliver now. Before we dig in, I want to comment on the packaging. Top-notch job, boys and girls. Several ways to fold these things up, and the ear adjustments are metal reinforced, but are ultimately plastic. Still, that was nice. The box includes a charging cable and a double male-ended 1/8" cable for wired playback. Nice, they didn't have to do that. The ear cups are nicely soft, padded. Time will tell if the sweat will eat them away. Decent padding on the top as well, but I could see this being the first thing to go. I was able to wear them for a couple of consecutive hours without feeling my head was in a vice or I just needed to get out. So, above average build and comfort, not so unlike the Sennheisers. For my playback, I'll be using my Hiby M300 digital audio player, primarily with FLAC lossless audio files I have ripped myself. If you want a review of the player or the ripping software, check the description for links. The HT2 are Bluetooth 5.3, which is the latest at the time of this video. Now, I won't go into Bluetooth details, you can research, but be assured this is what you want. Faster connection speeds, lower latency, lower battery use, blah, blah, blah. They paired up easily with the Hiby, and as promised, I started my testing without the companion app. So let's talk about the companion app. There's a lot of filler on here, but the main use is to toggle the ANC modes, which mostly you can do with a hardware button on the headset. Thank you, Tozo. And use the equalizer. Plenty of options for both, and the inclusion of an easy-to-use manual EQ tool is available. There really isn't anything locked up behind the app, but if possible, I recommend it because you're going to want the EQ for the best audio quality, although I sat on the Bass Plus setting most of the time. Fortunately, my Hiby is an Android device with Google Play Store access, so the app was easy to download, install, and work. Your mileage will vary depending on your player or the phone you're going to use. Without the app installed, I buzzed through my regular playlist, which is quite eclectic, ranging from pop to dance to soft rock, yacht rock, classic rock, the works. Hip-hop and country music are noticeably missing, sorry about that, but I assure you I had plenty of bass test tracks, and I feel I have enough information to render a verdict. Without the EQ, you get rather a flat sound profile, and for highs and mid-range tunes, it was pretty good. It won't be knocking the Sennheiser down off the pedestal, but still good, especially for $40. Bass was obviously lacking a bit, but 40mm drivers on inexpensive headphones are going to do that. A trip to the companion app and using the Bass Plus profile rendered better sound all around. The highs and mids popped out more, and the bass, while still unlikely to satisfy the hip-hop lover, punched up to a decent level and made songs like Fleetwood Mac's The Chain, Billy Joel's It's Still Rocking Roll to Me thump. Black Eyed Peas' Boom Boom Pow was an audible treat with this setting. Can you live without the app? Probably. But if you can't use it, you may suffer a bit, especially in the bass department. Look, I know the hook was comparing Tozo to Sennheiser, and of course, the Tozo lacks by comparison. But in terms of general music playback, the Tozos perform perfectly acceptable. Would I use these for professional monitoring? Hell no. But for consumer level music playback, I was pleasantly surprised. Let's move on to wired playback. Using the included cable, I plugged them into my Hiby and braced myself. Now, I know what you're thinking. Do you need power to use the cable? You might think that's a dumb question, but I've seen plenty of headsets that are really only usable if the power on the headphones are turned on, even though you've got a wired connection. No, in fact, the wired connection doesn't appear to work at all if the headphones are powered on. Weirdest thing I've ever seen. I did the musical test again over the wire, and I would consider it acceptable. But overall, it's really flat. No companion app can fix that, so this is really as good as it gets. Now, if you're on a 12-hour flight to London and your headphone battery dies, this is totally better than nothing. Or if you have a device that you're currently playing back music on has no Bluetooth or too old of Bluetooth to be effective, this cabled solution would be satisfactory. It's a nice backup, but I wouldn't buy this unit if that is what you're looking for. Finally, let's look at the ANC, or the noise canceling solutions. Using the hardware button on the headset, you can change between the modes of ANC off, on, hybrid, and pass-through. Pass-through lets you hear sound around you, great for being on the street or in the office where you still need to be somewhat present, and it works pretty good. I've had better with earbuds, but it's still nice to have. ANC basically works by sampling outside noise and creating the perfect counter signal it pipes into your ears, essentially canceling the outside audio. It sounds cool, and it is, but while the HT2 has it, the implementation doesn't work quite as well as I've experienced in other products, especially earbuds that have that awesome seal around your eardrum. It works great on lows like air conditioning, low humming, machinery running, but for people talking, the TV playing, you're not going to get that level of removal. The good news is, though, when you have any sort of decent level of music playing, you're not likely to hear the ambience anyway. I wouldn't buy these as introvert internal silencers, but it does work for some things. Supposedly, you lose 20 hours of playback using the ANC, so you want the advertised 60 hours, you're going to get closer by keeping that feature turned off. The hybrid mode really didn't wow me. In fact, when you change to that mode, it plays this little musical jingle, and then it plays a tone, takes a bit to kick in.
Adaptive.
It's actually kind of annoying. I tried several scenarios and I just couldn't get that warm fuzzy that it was doing any better than the regular ANC. Now, perhaps I didn't have the right situation to test with, but that's what I discovered. As I mentioned earlier, the high-res audio certification is what convinced me to try them. Coupled with the latest, at the time of writing, Bluetooth, along with that shiny gold logo, I had to try them. Tozo claims they invented something called ORGX Acoustic 2.0 technology that produces an ultra-wide frequency response higher than 44.1 kilohertz, ensuring you're getting lossless sound. Marketing buzz? Probably, but it definitely sounds better overall than most earbuds I have costing twice as much. So let's wrap this up. No, these aren't going to replace your Sennheiser or mid to pro level headphones, but freedom from the cable is going to be a worthy trade-off for many. For casual music enjoyment, these are great. But when I really want to zen out on the couch and lose myself in music, the Sennheiser will win out every time. The Tozo HT2 offers remarkably good quality, especially over Bluetooth, USB-C charging, nice quality of life stuff like dedicated feature buttons, and better than average comfort, all leads to a solid purchase. And at 40 bucks, that's almost an impulse buy. And thanks to Amazon's great return policy, you can pick these up and try them for yourself with very little risk. If you do, I'd love your input in the comments below. Remember, if you want some gaming tests, let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, help us grow the channel. I'm Shane R. Monroe. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care.